How far would someone go to control your future, your body, and your money without you ever suspecting? When I overheard my surgeon whispering about a secret envelope for my wife during my vasectomy, I realized I was the last to understand the truth. What I discovered inside changed everything, and it's how I turned the tables on the wife and doctor who thought I was just their pawn. The living room felt smaller than usual that Tuesday evening. Tara sat across from me on our leather couch, her laptop balanced on her knees, fingers dancing across the keyboard with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder. The soft glow from the screen highlighted the determined set of her jaw, a look I'd learned to recognize over our 12 years of marriage. "Elliot, we need to talk," she said without looking up from her screen. "About the vasectomy." I set down my engineering journal and studied her face. At 35, Tara still had the sharp, angular beauty that had first caught my attention at a conference in Chicago. But lately, something had shifted in the way she looked at me, like I was a problem to be solved rather than a husband to be loved. "I thought we agreed to table that discussion," I replied carefully. She finally closed the laptop and fixed me with those calculating green eyes. "Elliot, be realistic. We have Benji to think about. College costs are astronomical now, and with my promotion coming up, I can't afford to be sidelined by another pregnancy." "Another pregnancy? Tara, we haven't even talked about having more kids." "Exactly." She leaned forward, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when explaining obvious things to dense clients. "Which is why the vasectomy makes sense. It's a one-time procedure, covered by insurance, and then we never have to worry about it again." I rubbed my temples, feeling the familiar weight of being maneuvered into a corner. "What about other options? You could what? Go on hormones for the next 15 years? Deal with IUD complications? Elliot, you're an engineer. Look at this logically." She pulled out a folder from beside the couch. When had she prepared that? And spread papers across our coffee table. "I've done the research. Dr. Harmon has an excellent reputation. The procedure is minimally invasive, recovery is quick, and the success rate is over 99%. The papers were thorough. Medical studies, insurance coverage details, even a cost-benefit analysis that looked like something from her corporate job. She'd clearly been planning this conversation for weeks. "When did you have time to put all this together? I care about our family's future, Elliot. Someone has to think ahead." The slight edge in her voice made me look up. "Unless you enjoy the idea of starting over with diapers and sleepless nights at 40? Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Tara's face brightened immediately. "That'll be Cynthia. I asked her to stop by." "You asked her to?" "Tara, this is a private conversation. She's been through this with Marcus. I thought her perspective might help." Cynthia Marsh swept into our living room like she owned it, her perfectly styled auburn hair and designer outfit making our middle-class home feel suddenly shabby. She'd been Tara's best friend since college, and I'd never been able to shake the feeling that she saw me as beneath Tara's league. "Elliot," she air-kissed my cheek, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume. "Tara told me you're finally being smart about family planning. Good for you." "We're still discussing?" "Oh, Marcus was hesitant too," Cynthia interrupted, settling onto the couch beside Tara like they'd rehearsed this. "But honestly, it was the best decision we ever made. No more stress, no more worrying, just freedom to focus on what really matters: career advancement, financial security, enjoying the kids we already have." Tara nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. Elliot's always been the responsible one in our relationship. This is just another way to be responsible." I felt trapped between their unified front, like a defendant facing a well-prepared prosecution. "I just think we should take more time to consider." "Time?" Cynthia laughed. "Elliot, you're 39. How much time do you need? Every month you wait is another month of unnecessary risk." "Risk?" Tara leaned forward, her hand finding mine. "Honey, I know this feels big, but think about Benji. Think about giving him every advantage we can. Private tutoring, college prep courses, maybe even that engineering camp you mentioned. We can't do that if we're worried about more children." The mention of our 10-year-old son hit its mark. Benji was everything to me, curious, bright, with a natural talent for building things that reminded me of myself at that age. I wanted to give him the world. "Dr. Harmon has an opening next Friday," Tara continued. "I already checked your schedule. You're free." "You checked my schedule?" "I was being proactive." She squeezed my hand. "Elliot, I need you to trust me on this. When have I ever steered us wrong?" I looked at the papers spread across our table, at Cynthia's expectant face, at my wife's determined expression. The weight of their expectations pressed down on me like a physical force. "Okay," I heard myself saying. "Okay, I'll call Dr. Harmon's office tomorrow." Tara's smile was brilliant. You won't regret this, honey. This is going to be so good for us. But as Cynthia launched into a detailed account of Marcus's recovery process, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just agreed to something much bigger than a simple medical procedure. Friday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth for October. Tara had insisted on driving me to Dr. Harmon's clinic, chattering nervously about weekend plans and Benji's soccer schedule. Her energy seemed forced, like she was trying too hard to seem casual. You don't have to wait, I told her as we pulled into the medical complex parking lot. It's just a consultation and pre-op. I can take an Uber home. Don't be silly. I want to be here for you. She squeezed my arm. Besides, I have some questions for Dr. Harmon myself. The urology clinic occupied the third floor of a sleek glass building that smelled of antiseptic and fresh paint. Dr. Felix Harmon's waiting room was designed to project calm authority. Leather chairs, medical journals, diplomas covering one wall like trophies. Dr. Harmon himself was exactly what central casting would order for a trusted physician. Silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the sort of confident handshake that made you feel like you were in capable hands. He was probably in his early 50s, with the bearing of someone accustomed to being the smartest person in the room. Mr. and Mrs. Rayner, he said warmly, gesturing us into his office. I understand you're interested in permanent birth control options. That's right, Tara said before I could speak. We've done our research, and this seems like the most practical solution for our family. Dr. Harmon nodded approvingly. I always appreciate patients who come prepared. Mrs. Rayner, your questions over the phone showed excellent understanding of the procedure. I frowned. Questions over the phone? I called to verify our insurance coverage, Tara said quickly. Just being thorough. Dr. Harmon launched into his standard explanation of the vasectomy procedure. Local anesthesia, small incision, cutting and sealing the vas deferens, recovery time. His manner was professional and reassuring, but I noticed something odd. Several times during his explanation, he looked at Tara rather than me, as if seeking her approval for his words. Any questions, Mr. Rayner? Just about the anesthesia. I've had bad reactions to general anesthesia before. No problem at all. We use local anesthetic for this procedure anyway. You'll be awake but completely comfortable. Some patients even prefer a mild sedative to help them relax. That sounds good, Tara said. Elliot gets anxious about medical procedures. I wasn't particularly anxious, but I didn't contradict her. Dr. Harmon made a note in my file. Excellent. We can schedule you for next Friday morning. The procedure takes about 30 minutes, and you'll be home the same day. As we left the office, I caught a strange moment. Tara lingered by the reception desk while I signed paperwork, speaking in low tones with Dr. Harmon. When I looked over, they both smiled at me with the kind of bright, artificial cheer that made my engineer's brain ping with suspicion. Everything okay? I asked as we walked to the elevator. Perfect, Tara said. Dr. Harmon was just confirming some insurance details. You know how complicated medical billing can be. The week passed in a blur of work and family routines. Tara seemed unusually attentive, cooking my favorite meals and being more affectionate than she'd been in months. She even suggested we have a special dinner the night before the procedure, just the two of us, while Benji stayed at my father's house. Think of it as celebrating the start of our new chapter, she said, raising her wine glass across the candlelit table. You're making this sound like a bigger deal than it is. Isn't it, though? This is about our future, Elliot. Our freedom to make choices without worrying about accidents or complications. Her eyes sparkled in the candlelight. I'm proud of you for being so mature about this. Something in her tone bothered me, but I couldn't put my finger on what. It was like she was congratulating me for passing a test I didn't know I was taking. Friday morning, Tara was up before her alarm, moving around our bedroom with purposeful energy. She'd taken the whole day off work, which seemed excessive for a 30-minute outpatient procedure. Nervous? She asked, perching on the edge of the bed as I got dressed. A little. It's surgery, even if it's minor. You'll be fine. Dr. Harmon is the best. She hesitated, then added, I might step out during the actual procedure. Medical stuff makes me queasy. Since when? You watched them stitch up Benji's chin last year without flinching. This is different. It's more personal. At the clinic, the pre-procedure routine was efficient and impersonal. I changed into a hospital gown, answered the same medical history questions I'd answered twice before, and submitted to having my vitals taken by a cheerful nurse named Maggie Doyle. First vasectomy? Maggie asked as she checked my vital signs. Hopefully the last one too, I joked. She laughed, but I caught something in her expression, a flicker of discomfort that was quickly suppressed. Dr. Harmon is very experienced. You're in good hands. Is everything okay? You seem Oh, just tired. Long week. She made a note on my chart. Your wife seems very supportive. That makes a big difference in recovery. She's been great about the whole thing. Maggie nodded, but again I sensed something unsaid lurking behind her professional smile. Dr. Harmon appeared in surgical scrubs, projecting the same calm confidence from our consultation. Ready to get this done, Elliot? As ready as I'll ever be? Excellent. We'll have you fixed up and home in no time. The surgical suite was smaller than I'd expected, dominated by an adjustable table and bright overhead lights. Dr. Harmon explained each step as his assistant prepared the instruments, his voice maintaining the same soothing professional tone. Just a small injection to numb the area, he said. You'll feel a pinch, then nothing. The local anesthetic worked quickly, leaving me aware but detached from what was happening below my waist. Dr. Harmon kept up a steady stream of reassuring commentary as he worked. Making the first incision now. Perfect. Isolating the base de fer. Excellent. I stared at the ceiling tiles and tried to think about anything except what was happening to my body. This was supposed to be routine, simple, over before I knew it. So why did I feel like I was making a terrible mistake? How are we doing, Elliot? Any discomfort? No, I'm fine. Good. We're about halfway done. That's when I heard it. Dr. Harmon speaking quietly to someone near the door, too quietly for normal surgical communication. I need you to give his wife this envelope. Don't let him see it. A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. I forced myself to remain perfectly still, to keep my breathing steady, to give no sign that I'd heard anything unusual. But my mind was racing. An envelope? For Tara? That I wasn't supposed to see? I pretended to still be under anesthesia, letting my eyelids flutter slightly but keeping my breathing deep and regular. Through barely opened eyes, I watched Dr. Harmon hand a manila envelope to Maggie, who looked distinctly uncomfortable as she accepted it. Mrs. Rayner is in the waiting room, Maggie said quietly. Perfect. And remember, I know, he doesn't see it. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it, but I maintained the pretense of sedation. What could possibly be in that envelope that I wasn't supposed to know about? And why was my wife involved in secret communications with my surgeon? The rest of the procedure passed in a haze of paranoid speculation. Dr. Harmon finished his work with the same professional competence, explaining the post-operative care while I nodded and smiled and tried to act like a normal patient who hadn't just discovered evidence of some kind of conspiracy. Take it easy for a few days, he concluded. No heavy lifting, ice packs for swelling, and follow up in a week. Any questions? I don't think so. When will I know if it was successful? We'll do a sperm count in 8 to 12 weeks. Until then, you'll need to use backup contraception. He smiled. But I'm very confident in the results. I bet you are, I thought grimly. In the recovery room, I lay on a narrow bed and tried to process what I'd overheard. Maggie checked on me twice, and both times I caught her looking at me with what seemed like sympathy, or maybe guilt. Your wife will be so relieved when this is all over, she said during her second visit. Relieved? Well, you know, no more worrying about complications. There was definitely something in her tone, something that suggested she knew more about my situation than a nurse should. Maggie, I said carefully, is everything okay? You seem upset about something. She froze in the act of adjusting my IV. I'm fine. Why would you ask that? You just seem, I don't know, conflicted. For a moment I thought she might say something real. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Finally she shook her head. It's nothing. Just tired. You rest now. But as she left the room, I heard her mutter something under her breath that sounded like, I'm sorry. Tara appeared 20 minutes later, bright and cheerful and carrying a small gift bag. How's my brave husband? She asked, kissing my forehead. Sore, but okay. Dr. Harmon says everything went perfectly. I'm so proud of you. She settled into the chair beside my bed. This is going to be so good for us, Elliot. You'll see. I studied her face, looking for any sign of the secret knowledge I now suspected she possessed. But Tara had always been good at maintaining facades. It was part of what made her successful in corporate politics. Did anyone give you anything while I was in surgery? I asked casually. Give me anything? Like what? I don't know. Paperwork, instructions, anything like that. Just the standard post-op care sheet. She held up a single printed page. Why? No reason. The anesthesia makes me paranoid, I guess. She laughed, but it sounded forced. You're fine, honey. Everything's fine. As she helped me get dressed to go home, I noticed her purse seemed fuller than usual. And when she thought I wasn't looking, I caught her touching it protectively, like someone guarding a secret. The envelope was in there. I was sure of it. The next few days passed in a haze of prescribed rest and growing paranoia. Tara was the perfect nurse, bringing me ice packs and pain medication, adjusting pillows, and fussing over my recovery with an attention that would have been touching if I hadn't been consumed with suspicion about that envelope. I spent hours in my home office, ostensibly working on electrical schematics for a commercial building project, but actually replaying every moment of the surgery in my mind. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that something was fundamentally wrong with the whole situation. Wednesday afternoon, while Tara was at work and Benji was at school, I decided to visit my father. Will Rayner lived 20 minutes away in the same modest ranch house where I'd grown up, and his perspective had always been valuable during the major decisions of my life. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting, ushering me into his familiar living room. "Thanks, Dad. Really what a guy wants to hear during recovery." "I mean it. You're pale, you're jumpy, and you've got that look you used to get when you were working on a problem you couldn't solve." He settled into his worn leather recliner. "What's eating at you?" I'd always been able to talk to my father. At 62, he had the calm wisdom of someone who'd seen enough of life to recognize its patterns. He'd been a foreman at the power plant for 30 years before retiring, and his practical intelligence had shaped my own approach to problem solving. "Did you want me to get the vasectomy?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow. "That's an odd question. It's your body, your choice." "But what did you think when Tara first mentioned it?" Will was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. "You want the truth?" "Always." I thought the timing was strange. Right after you got that big bonus from the Morrison project. Right when Tara started talking about securing your future. It felt like she was making decisions about your family while you were still catching up. You never said anything. It wasn't my place. But since you're asking... He leaned forward. "Elliot, your mother and I raised you to be considerate, to put family first. Those are good qualities. But sometimes I wonder if you're so busy being the good husband that you forget to pay attention to what's actually happening around you." His words hit harder than I'd expected. "What do you mean?" "When's the last time Tara asked what you wanted instead of telling you what made sense? When's the last time she treated your opinion as equal to hers instead of something to be managed?" I opened my mouth to defend her, then realized I couldn't think of a recent example. "She's ambitious," I said finally. "She thinks strategically." "About her career, sure. But what about your marriage? What about your family?" Will's voice was gentle but firm. "Son, I've watched you give up the job in Seattle, the promotion that would have required travel, the consulting opportunity with your old college buddy. Every time, it was because Tara convinced you it wasn't practical, wasn't stable, wasn't what was best for the family. Those were joint decisions. Were they? Or were they Tara's decisions that you went along with because it was easier than fighting?" I sat back, feeling like he'd just diagnosed a condition I hadn't realized I had. "You think I'm too passive. I think you're too trusting, and I think Tara has gotten very comfortable making decisions for both of you." He paused. "The vasectomy feels like the latest example. But it makes financial sense. Kids are expensive, and with her promotion..." "Elliot." His voice was sharp enough to cut through my rationalizations. "Listen to yourself. You're repeating her arguments word for word. What do you actually want?" The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? When was the last time I'd even asked myself that question? "I don't know," I admitted. "Then maybe it's time to start figuring that out." That evening, I paid closer attention to Tara's behavior. She was solicitous about my recovery, but there was an undercurrent of excitement in her manner, like someone anticipating good news. She spent more time than usual on her phone, texting with what seemed like unusual frequency. "Work crisis?" I asked during dinner. "Just coordinating with Cynthia about the weekend. She's having a little celebration for Marcus's promotion." "I thought Marcus got promoted last month." "This is a different promotion. Regional manager." She didn't look up from her phone. "You probably won't feel up to going anyway, still recovering and all." It was a reasonable assumption, but something about the way she said it bothered me, like she was hoping I wouldn't be up for going. After she went to bed, I found myself standing outside our bedroom, listening to her talk quietly on the phone. I couldn't make out the words, but her tone was animated, almost giddy. When I pushed the door open, she quickly ended the call. "Just saying goodnight to Cynthia," she explained. "Didn't want to wake you." "It's only 10 o'clock. You know how she is, early to bed, early to rise." She patted the space beside her on the bed. "Come here, let me take care of you." But as she helped me get comfortable, I noticed her phone screen light up with a text notification. She grabbed it quickly, but not before I caught a glimpse of the sender's name. Dr. Harmon. Why was my surgeon texting my wife at 10 o'clock at night? Thursday morning, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I went through Tara's purse. It felt like a violation, and part of me hoped I wouldn't find anything incriminating. But the envelope was there, tucked between her wallet and a folder of work documents. My hands shook as I carefully extracted it, trying not to disturb anything else. The envelope was sealed, but not securely, just a casual fold of the flap that suggested it had been opened and closed multiple times. Inside, I found 3 items that sent a chill straight through me. First, a copy of the surgical consent form I'd signed, but with additional handwritten notes in the margins. Notes that mentioned permanent sterilization confirmed and patient unaware of secondary procedures. Secondary procedures? What secondary procedures? Second, a letter on Dr. Harmon's letterhead, dated the day before my surgery, addressed to Tara. It was brief but devastating. Mrs. Rayner, as discussed, the procedure has been completed according to your specifications. The additional measures we discussed will ensure the desired outcome. Please find the confirmation documentation attached. As agreed, the patient remains unaware of the full scope of the intervention. Payment should be remitted within 30 days. The third item was a photocopy of a check made out to Dr. Harmon for $5,000, drawn on an account I'd never seen before. The signature was Tara's, but the account number didn't match any of our joint accounts. I sat in my office staring at these documents, trying to process what they meant. Additional measures. Secondary procedures. Patient unaware. What had they done to me that I didn't know about? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers. I photographed each document with my phone, then carefully returned everything to Tara's purse exactly as I'd found it. Then I called the one person I trusted to help me figure out what to do next. Lance Whitaker had been my roommate at engineering school before he decided law was a better fit for his argumentative nature. We'd stayed in touch over the years, and I'd always admired his ability to see through people's nonsense to the truth underneath. Elliot, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Lance, I need your help, and I need you to keep this completely confidential. Of course. What's going on? I told him everything, the vasectomy, the overheard conversation, the envelope, the documents. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Jesus Christ, Elliot. Do you understand what you're describing? I'm not sure. That's why I'm calling you. You're describing medical fraud, conspiracy, and possibly assault. If they performed procedures you didn't consent to, if money changed hands, if there was deliberate deception. He paused. This is serious criminal behavior. But what could they have done? It was supposed to be a simple vasectomy. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Can you meet me at my office tomorrow? And bring those photos. What about Tara? She'll wonder where I'm going. Tell her you're meeting me for lunch. Old friends catching up while you recover. She doesn't need to know anything else yet. That night, Tara was more affectionate than she'd been in months. She cooked my favorite dinner, opened a bottle of wine, and seemed genuinely happy in a way that would have been wonderful if I hadn't known what I now knew. You seem better, she said over dessert. More relaxed. The pain's finally manageable. Good. I was worried about you. She reached across the table and took my hand. I know this was a big decision, but I really think it's going to be wonderful for us. No more stress, no more worrying about the future, just freedom to enjoy what we have. What if I regret it? Regret it? Why would you regret it? I don't know. What if we change our minds about more kids? Her grip on my hand tightened almost imperceptibly. Elliot, we're not going to change our minds. We're both too practical for that. Besides, she smiled, some decisions are permanent for a reason. They force you to move forward instead of second-guessing yourself. Permanent, I repeated. Exactly, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Tara's peaceful breathing beside me, I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how long she'd been thinking of me as an obstacle to be managed rather than a partner to be consulted, and what exactly had she paid Dr. Harmon $5,000 to do to me? Lance's law office occupied the top floor of a converted Victorian house downtown, all exposed brick and modern furniture that somehow managed to look both professional and welcoming. I'd been there a few times over the years for social occasions, but never as a client seeking help with what might be a criminal conspiracy. You look like you haven't slept, Lance said, ushering me into his office. I haven't. Not really. I sank into the leather chair across from his desk. Lance, what if I'm wrong about this? What if I'm just being paranoid? Then we'll figure that out too, but first, let me see those photos. I handed him my phone, watching his expression change as he scrolled through the images of the documents. His face went from curious to concerned to genuinely angry. Elliot, this isn't paranoia. This is a smoking gun. He looked up from the phone. Do you have any idea what secondary procedures might refer to? That's what's been keeping me awake. We need to find out, and we need to do it carefully, because if what I'm thinking is true, we're dealing with serious criminal behavior. He leaned back in his chair. Tell me about the money. $5,000 to a surgeon who's already being paid by your insurance. What could that be for? I have no idea. I've never seen that account before. We'll need to trace that. Bank records, account opening documents, transaction history. He made notes on a legal pad. What about the nurse? Maggie, you said? Maggie Doyle. She seemed uncomfortable the whole time, like she knew something was wrong but couldn't say anything. She might be our best source of information. Medical staff have ethical obligations that override loyalty to their employers. Lance tapped his pen against the desk. I think we need to approach her carefully, see what she's willing to tell us. And if she won't talk? Then we go to the medical board, the hospital administration, maybe even the police. But let's start with the direct approach. He stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the busy street below. Elliot, I have to ask, are you prepared for what we might find out? What do you mean? I mean, if Tara has been planning this for months, if she's paid a doctor to perform unauthorized procedures on you, if she's been manipulating your medical care for her own benefit. He turned back to face me. This isn't just about a vasectomy anymore. This is about the fundamental trust in your marriage. I'd been trying not to think about that aspect of it. I know. Do you? Because once we start pulling on this thread, there's no putting it back. Your relationship with Tara will never be the same, regardless of what we discover. It's already not the same. I can't unknow what I know. Fair enough. He sat back down. Then let's figure out exactly what we're dealing with. Lance's first step was to arrange a meeting with Maggie Doyle. He had a friend who worked in hospital administration, and through some discreet inquiries, he learned that Maggie often ate lunch at a small cafe near the medical complex. The plan was simple. I would accidentally run into her and try to start a conversation. The cafe was the kind of place that catered to medical professionals, quick service, healthy options, tables spaced far enough apart for private conversations. I found Maggie sitting alone near the window, picking at a salad while reading something on her tablet. Maggie, I'm Elliot Rayner. You were my nurse last week. She looked up, and I immediately saw recognition followed by something that looked like panic. Oh, Mr. Rayner, how are you feeling? Much better, thanks. Mind if I sit? I was hoping to ask you something. She glanced around the cafe nervously. Sure. For a minute? I sat down across from her, trying to project calm friendliness despite the fact that my heart was racing. I wanted to thank you for being so kind during the procedure. I know I seemed anxious. It's completely normal to be nervous. The thing is, I've been having some unusual symptoms since the surgery. Nothing serious, but different from what Dr. Harmon told me to expect. This was a lie, but I needed an opening. I was wondering if you remembered anything unusual about the procedure. Maggie's face went pale. Unusual how? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. You seemed concerned about something that day, like something wasn't quite right. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she looked around the cafe again, making sure no one was listening. Mr. Rayner, I can't discuss specific medical procedures outside of the clinical setting. I understand, but if something happened that I should know about, something that might affect my health, you should talk to Dr. Harmon about any concerns. I tried. He says everything is normal. But Maggie, you were there. You saw what happened, and you looked like you wanted to say something but couldn't. She was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to respond. Then, very quietly, she said, Have you had a sperm count done yet? It's too early. Dr. Harmon said 8 to 12 weeks. You should get one done privately. Soon. Why? She stood up abruptly, gathering her things. I have to go. I'm sorry. Maggie, wait. Please. If something's wrong, I need to know. She stopped, her back to me, and I heard her take a shaky breath. Mr. Rayner, there are procedures that can be done during a vasectomy that go beyond the standard surgery. Procedures that ensure permanence beyond what's normally required. A chill went through me. What kind of procedures? I can't say more, but if I were you, I'd get a second opinion, from a different doctor, soon. She left without looking back, leaving me sitting alone with a half-finished coffee and a growing sense of dread. That afternoon, I called a urologist across town and scheduled an appointment for the following week, claiming I wanted a second opinion on my recovery. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went to the bank and requested detailed statements for all of our accounts. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Tara had opened a personal account 6 months ago, right around the time she'd first mentioned the vasectomy. The account had received regular deposits from her salary, but also several large transfers from our joint savings. Money I'd thought was going toward Benji's college fund had been quietly moved to an account I'd never known existed. The $5,000 payment to Dr. Harmon was just the latest in a series of transactions that painted a picture of careful, long-term planning. There were payments to a law firm I didn't recognize, transfers to what looked like investment accounts, and a particularly large withdrawal from just 2 weeks ago that I couldn't identify. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot, staring at the statements, trying to understand what I was looking at. This wasn't impulsive behavior. This was a systematic plan that had been in motion for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Tara. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you." For the first time in our marriage, I didn't believe her. That evening, I did something else I'd never done. I went through Tara's home office. Her desk was meticulously organized with labeled folders for household bills, insurance documents, and tax records. But tucked in the back of the bottom drawer, I found a folder labeled Personal Private. Inside were documents that made my hands shake as I read them. A consultation report from a divorce attorney dated 3 months ago, outlining Tara's potential settlement in the event of a divorce. The attorney had been thorough: asset division, alimony calculations, child custody arrangements. According to the projections, Tara would be entitled to roughly 60% of our assets, plus substantial monthly support payments. But there was a note handwritten in the margin that made a chill lock me in place. Husband's earning potential significantly reduced due to planned medical intervention. Alimony calculations should reflect permanent reduction in capacity. Planned medical intervention. They were talking about my vasectomy. But why would a vasectomy reduce my earning potential? Unless it wasn't just a vasectomy. The next document was a medical consultation report from a fertility specialist discussing irreversible sterilization procedures and their psychological impact on male patients. The report mentioned depression, loss of self-worth, and reduced career ambition as common side effects of comprehensive sterilization. Comprehensive sterilization. What the hell did that mean? The final document was a timeline, written in Tara's careful handwriting. March, initial consultation with attorney April. Open personal account, begin asset transfer, May. Research comprehensive sterilization procedures. June, first consultation with Dr. H, July. Convince E of vasectomy necessity. August, schedule procedure, September, execute plan. October, begin divorce proceedings, November, financial independence secured. I was looking at a month-by-month plan to destroy my life, and according to the timeline, she was supposed to file for divorce next month. I photographed everything, returned the folder to its hiding place, and went to my own office to call Lance. They didn't just perform an unauthorized vasectomy, I told him after explaining what I'd found. I think they did something worse, something that's supposed to affect my psychology, my career prospects, my entire future. Jesus, Elliot, do you understand what you're describing? This isn't just medical malpractice. This is assault, fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud. He paused. We need to get you to a doctor immediately, and we need to start building a case. A case? Elliot, your wife and her doctor have committed multiple felonies. They've violated your bodily autonomy, stolen your money, and plan to destroy your financial future. This is going to court. But what if I'm wrong? What if there's an explanation? Then we'll find that out too, but right now all the evidence points in one direction. His voice was firm. Elliot, they thought you'd never figure it out. They thought you'd just accept whatever they told you and go along with their plan. But you did figure it out. And now we're going to make them pay for it. That night, I lay in bed beside my wife, listening to her breathe, and wondered how long she'd been planning to destroy me. How long she'd been looking at me not as a husband to love, but as an obstacle to eliminate. And what, exactly, Dr. Harmon had done to my body that was supposed to break my spirit so thoroughly that I'd never fight back. But they'd made one crucial mistake in their planning. They'd underestimated me. The appointment with Dr. Patricia Vance, the second urologist, was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I told Tara I was meeting Lance for lunch again, which was technically true. We were meeting afterward to discuss whatever Dr. Vance discovered. Dr. Vance's office had a completely different feel from Dr. Harmon's clinic. Where his had been all polished authority and expensive furniture, hers was warm and functional, with family photos on her desk and children's artwork on the walls. She was probably in her mid-40s, with the kind of direct, no-nonsense manner that immediately put me at ease. Mr. Rayner, you mentioned on the phone that you wanted a second opinion on your recent vasectomy. Are you experiencing complications? I'm not sure. That's what I'm hoping you can tell me. I'd decided to be completely honest with Dr. Vance, so I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the envelope, the documents I'd found. Her expression grew more serious with each detail. Mr. Rayner, what you're describing raises significant ethical concerns. Would you consent to a thorough examination? I'd like to document exactly what procedures were performed. Whatever you need to do. The examination was more detailed than anything Dr. Harmon had done during my follow-up visits. Dr. Vance was methodical and careful, taking notes and photos for her records. When she finished, her expression was grim. Mr. Rayner, I need to ask you some questions about what you consented to. Did Dr. Harmon discuss anything beyond a standard vasectomy? No, just cutting and sealing the vas deferens. Did he mention anything about hormone regulation, testosterone production, or psychological effects? No. Why? She was quiet for a long moment, reviewing her notes. Mr. Rayner, a standard vasectomy involves interrupting the ducts, so reproductive cells no longer pass through the system. It's a straightforward procedure that doesn't affect hormone levels or overall physical performance. Okay. What was done to you goes far beyond a standard vasectomy. There's evidence of additional surgical intervention that would have required separate consent forms and much more extensive recovery time. My mouth went dry. What kind of intervention? Without going into excessive medical detail, it appears that procedures were performed that would affect your hormone production, potentially causing depression, reduced energy, and other psychological symptoms that might impact your career and personal relationships. Is it reversible? Some of it might be. But Mr. Rayner, what was done to you was not medically necessary and would never be performed without explicit, informed consent. This is a serious violation of medical ethics and probably criminal assault. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what she was telling me. They hadn't just sterilized me, they'd deliberately tried to break me psychologically. There's something else, Dr. Vance continued. The procedures I'm seeing evidence of are not commonly known. Dr. Harmon would have had to research them specifically, probably consult with specialists. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was carefully planned. How long would it take to see the effects? The psychological impact? It varies, but typically within a few weeks to a few months. Depression, loss of motivation, reduced self-confidence. In severe cases, it can completely derail someone's career and personal relationships. I thought about Tara's timeline. She'd planned to file for divorce in November, just about the time these effects would be reaching their peak. She'd expected me to be too broken to fight back. Dr. Vance, would you be willing to document all of this officially, for legal purposes? Absolutely. What was done to you is unconscionable. I'll prepare a full report detailing the unauthorized procedures and their likely effects. She paused. Mr. Rayner, you should also know that some of the effects can be mitigated with proper treatment. You don't have to let this destroy your life. Thank you. For everything. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad you figured it out before it was too late. Lance was waiting for me at his office, and his expression darkened as I relayed Dr. Vance's findings. Elliot, this is beyond anything I imagined. They didn't just commit medical malpractice, they deliberately tried to psychologically destroy you to make you easier to manipulate in a divorce. So, what do? We build an airtight case and then we destroy them. His voice was cold with anger. But we have to be smart about it. If Tara realizes you know what's happening, she might accelerate her timeline or try to cover her tracks. What do you need from me? Everything. Bank records, the documents from her office, Dr. Vance's medical report, anything else you can find. We're going to document every aspect of this conspiracy. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own life. I photographed every relevant document I could find, traced financial transactions, and even installed a discreet recording app on my phone in case Tara said anything incriminating. What I discovered was even worse than I had initially thought. Tara hadn't just been planning to divorce me. She'd been systematically sabotaging my career for months. I found emails where she'd contacted my supervisor at work, expressing concern about my stress levels and suggesting I might need to reduce my responsibilities. She'd canceled my registration for a professional conference that could have led to a promotion, telling them I was dealing with personal health issues. She'd even been in contact with Benji's school, laying groundwork for a custody arrangement that would give her primary custody while positioning me as an unstable father, dealing with medical complications. Every aspect of my life had been weaponized against me, but the most damaging discovery was a recorded phone conversation between Tara and Cynthia that I accidentally captured when Tara put her phone on speaker while I was in the next room. The procedure went perfectly, Tara was saying. Dr. Harmon says the psychological effects should start showing up in the next few weeks. And Elliot doesn't suspect anything? Nothing. He's exactly as naive as I expected. By the time he realizes what's happening, he'll be too depressed and confused to fight the divorce. What about Benji? He'll be better off with me having primary custody. Elliot's going to be dealing with some serious psychological issues soon. It wouldn't be fair to burden a child with that. You're brilliant, Tara. A little ruthless, but brilliant. I learned a long time ago that you have to take control of your own destiny. Elliot's a good man, but he's not ambitious enough for the life I want. This way, I get the financial security without being held back by his limitations. And Dr. Harmon was really willing to do all this? For the right price, he was very accommodating. Amazing what people will do when they're properly motivated. They laughed together, and I had to leave the room to keep from being sick. That recording became the centerpiece of our case. Combined with the medical evidence, the financial records, and the documents from Tara's office, we had overwhelming proof of conspiracy, fraud, and assault. It's time to decide how you want to handle this, Lance told me during our final preparation meeting. We can go to the police, file criminal charges, and let the system handle it, or we can confront them directly and give them a chance to face the consequences publicly. What's the difference? Criminal charges will definitely result in punishment, but it might take months or years to work through the courts. A public confrontation will destroy their reputations immediately, but they might escape legal consequences. What do you recommend? Both. We confront them publicly first, make sure everyone knows what they've done, then we file criminal charges and let the legal system finish the job. Where would we confront them? I've been thinking about that. What would hurt them most? Tara cares about her professional reputation, and Dr. Harmon cares about his medical standing. The hospital, I said suddenly. If we can get them both to the hospital, in front of the medical staff and administration, that would destroy both their careers simultaneously, Lance smiled grimly. I like it. Let me see what I can arrange. It took 3 more days to set up the meeting. Lance contacted the hospital's risk management department, explaining that there were serious concerns about a recent surgical procedure that required immediate administrative review. He requested that all relevant parties be present, including the surgeon, the patient, and any family members involved in the consent process. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon in the hospital's main conference room. Tara thought she was coming to discuss my concerns about the procedure. I told her I was worried about some side effects and wanted to get everything cleared up. She had no idea she was walking into her own destruction. Are you ready for this? Lance asked me as we sat in his car outside the hospital. I've been ready since I heard that conversation in the operating room. Remember, stay calm, stick to the facts, and let the evidence speak for itself. By the time we're done, everyone in that room will know exactly what they did to you. And then? Then we watch their world burn. As we walked into the hospital, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The months of manipulation, the betrayal, the systematic attempt to destroy my life and steal my future. Tara and Dr. Harmon thought they'd been so clever, so careful in their planning. They'd underestimated the quiet, passive husband who always went along with what made sense. They were about to learn that being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The hospital's main conference room was exactly what you'd expect from a medical facility. Sterile, professional, designed for serious conversations about serious matters. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, and a long mahogany table dominated the center of the room, surrounded by high-back chairs that seemed designed to make people sit up straight and pay attention. I arrived early with Lance, wanting to position myself strategically and review our materials one final time. We'd organized everything into a single red folder: medical reports, financial records, photographs of documents, transcripts of recorded conversations. Everything needed to destroy 2 lives was contained in that innocent-looking folder. Remember, Lance said quietly as we arranged our papers, let them dig their own graves first. Give them a chance to lie, to maintain their story. The deeper they dig, the more devastating it'll be when we bury them. Dr. Kwan, the hospital director, arrived next. She was a small, efficient woman in her late 50s who radiated the kind of quiet authority that came from decades of managing medical crises. Her assistant had briefed her on the general nature of our concerns, but she didn't know the specifics yet. Mr. Rayner, she said, shaking my hand with a firm grip, I understand you have some concerns about a recent procedure. We take all patient feedback very seriously. Thank you for making time for this, Dr. Kwan. I think you'll find this situation unusual. Maggie Doyle entered next, looking nervous but determined. Lance had contacted her through his hospital connections, explaining that her testimony might be needed for a serious medical ethics review. She'd agreed to participate, though I could see the stress in her face. Mrs. Doyle, I said quietly, thank you for being here. I know this isn't easy. It's the right thing to do, she replied, but her voice was shaky. Dr. Harmon arrived exactly on time, projecting his usual confidence. He wore an expensive suit instead of scrubs, and his silver hair was perfectly styled. He looked like a man who'd never had his authority seriously challenged. "Dr. Kwan, I have to say I'm surprised by this meeting," he said, settling into his chair with casual authority. "Mr. Rayner's procedure was completely routine. I'm not sure what concerns could require this level of administrative review." "We'll get to that," Dr. Kwan replied neutrally. Tara was the last to arrive, and she looked perfect. Professional blazer, carefully styled hair, the confident bearing of someone who was used to controlling every situation she entered. She kissed my cheek before taking the seat beside me, playing the role of the supportive wife to perfection. "Sorry I'm a few minutes late," she said to the room. "Traffic was terrible. Elliot, honey, are you feeling okay? You look pale." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't known what I knew, I would have believed she was genuinely concerned about my well-being. "I'm fine," I said. "Just want to get some answers." Dr. Kwan called the meeting to order. "Mr. Rayner, you've requested this review to discuss concerns about your recent vasectomy procedure. Could you please explain the nature of your concerns?" This was the moment Lance and I had planned for. I needed to let them establish their story before revealing what I knew. "I've been experiencing some unexpected side effects," I said carefully. "Depression, fatigue, difficulty concentrating at work. Dr. Harmon told me these weren't normal complications from a vasectomy, but I wanted to get a second opinion." Dr. Harmon leaned forward, his expression professionally concerned. "Mr. Rayner, as I explained during your follow-up appointments, some patients do experience mild psychological adjustments after any surgical procedure. It's completely normal and usually resolves within a few weeks. But these symptoms seem more severe than what you described as normal." "Every patient heals differently. If you're concerned, we can discuss some mild anti-anxiety medication to help with the transition." Tara reached over and squeezed my hand. "Honey, Dr. Harmon is one of the best urologists in the state. If he says it's normal, we should trust his expertise." "Mrs. Rayner is right," Dr. Harmon said, smiling at her. "I've performed hundreds of these procedures. What you're experiencing is well within the normal range of post-surgical adjustment." I looked at Lance, who gave me an almost imperceptible nod. They'd just committed to their story. Now it was time to destroy it. "Dr. Harmon," I said, "could you walk us through exactly what procedures you performed during my surgery?" "Of course. Standard bilateral vasectomy, small incisions to access the vas deferens, cutting and sealing to prevent sperm transport. Very routine." "And that's all?" "That's all that was medically necessary." "Dr. Kwan," I said, turning to the hospital director, "I'd like to present some additional information that might be relevant to this review." I opened the red folder and pulled out Dr. Vance's medical report. This is an independent evaluation of the surgical site, performed by Dr. Patricia Vance at City Medical Center. Dr. Vance found evidence of procedures that go significantly beyond a standard vasectomy. Dr. Kwan took the report and began reading, her expression growing more serious with each page. Dr. Harmon's confident demeanor flickered for the first time. "Dr. Vance is mistaken," he said quickly. "Without having performed the original surgery, she can't accurately assess." "Dr. Vance is a board-certified urologist with 15 years of experience," Lance interrupted. "Her report documents specific surgical interventions that would require separate consent forms and have significant psychological side effects." Tara was looking between Dr. Harmon and me with growing alarm. "Elliot, what is this about? What other procedures?" Her performance was still good, but I could see cracks forming. She was starting to realize that something had gone wrong with their plan. "Mrs. Rayner," I said, pulling out the next set of documents. "I think you know exactly what procedures I'm talking about." I placed copies of the envelope contents on the table, the surgical notes, Dr. Harmon's letter, and the photo of the $5,000 check. The color drained from Tara's face. "Where did you get these?" Dr. Harmon demanded. "From the envelope you gave to Nurse Doyle with instructions that I wasn't supposed to see it," I replied calmly. All eyes turned to Maggie, who looked like she wanted to disappear. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. "Mrs. Doyle," Dr. Kwan said firmly, "did Dr. Harmon give you an envelope to deliver to Mrs. Rayner without the patient's knowledge?" "Yes, ma'am. He said it was important that Mr. Rayner not see it." "And what was your understanding of why this secrecy was necessary?" Maggie looked at Dr. Harmon, then back at Dr. Kwan. "I didn't understand it, ma'am. That's why I felt so uncomfortable. In 15 years of nursing, I'd never been asked to hide medical information from a patient." Dr. Harmon was starting to sweat. "Dr. Kwan, this is all a misunderstanding. The envelope contained routine administrative paperwork." "Then you won't mind explaining this," I said, pulling out the bank records showing the $5,000 payment from Tara's secret account. I placed the statements on the table, highlighting the transaction. This is a payment from my wife to Dr. Harmon, drawn on an account I knew nothing about, for services beyond what insurance covered. Dr. Kwan studied the bank records, then looked at Dr. Harmon with an expression that could have frozen water. Dr. Harmon, did you receive payment from Mrs. Rayner for procedures not covered by the patient's insurance? There may have been some additional administrative fees. $5,000 in administrative fees? Lance asked. For a 30-minute outpatient procedure? Tara finally found her voice. Elliot, you're taking this all out of context. I was just trying to make sure you got the best possible care. Were you? I pulled out the next document, her consultation with the divorce attorney. Because this report from your divorce lawyer suggests you were planning something quite different. I read directly from the document. Husband's earning potential significantly reduced due to planned medical intervention. Alimony calculations should reflect permanent reduction in capacity. The room was completely silent. Dr. Kwan's expression had moved beyond professional concern into genuine shock. Mrs. Rayner, she said slowly, are you suggesting that medical procedures were planned specifically to affect your husband's earning capacity in anticipation of divorce proceedings? That's not... I never said... Tara was floundering, her composure completely shattered. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, you said exactly that. I played the recorded conversation between Tara and Cynthia, the one where they discussed the psychological effects of the procedure and how it would make me easier to manipulate in the divorce. Tara's voice filled the room. The procedure went perfectly. Dr. Harmon says the psychological effects should start showing up in the next few weeks. By the time he realizes what's happening, he'll be too depressed and confused to fight the divorce. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Kwan's face had gone completely white. Dr. Harmon looked like he was about to be sick. Tara was staring at me with an expression of pure hatred. Dr. Harmon, Dr. Kwan said in a voice like ice, did you perform unauthorized medical procedures on Mr. Rayner with the specific intent of causing psychological harm to benefit his wife in divorce proceedings? This is all being taken out of context? It's a simple question, doctor. Did you or did you not perform procedures beyond what the patient consented to? Dr. Harmon's silence was answer enough. Dr. Kwan stood up, her authority filling the room. Dr. Harmon, you are suspended from all hospital privileges effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building, and I will be reporting this matter to the medical board, the police, and the district attorney's office. Dr. Kwan, you don't understand the full situation. I understand enough. You violated the most basic principles of medical ethics. You performed unauthorized procedures on a patient for financial gain. You conspired to cause deliberate harm for personal profit. Her voice was shaking with anger. Get out of my hospital. Dr. Harmon looked around the room desperately, but found no allies. As security officers appeared at the door, he gathered his things with shaking hands. This isn't over, he said to me as he was led out. Yes, I replied calmly. It is. Tara was still sitting in stunned silence, staring at the documents spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. Mrs. Rayner, Dr. Kwan said, I strongly suggest you contact an attorney. What you've done here constitutes conspiracy, fraud, and possibly criminal assault. Tara finally looked at me, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw her without any masks or pretenses, just naked fury at having her plans destroyed. You traitor, she said quietly. You were supposed to be too broken to fight back. I was, I agreed. That was your mistake. Lance stood up and handed Dr. Kwan a business card. Dr. Kwan will be filing criminal charges and a civil lawsuit. We'll need copies of all relevant medical records and administrative documents. Of course. And Mr. Rayner, please know that this hospital will cooperate fully with any legal proceedings. What was done to you is unconscionable.